Yo, 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 welcome to season 4 of We're Not Marketers. This is Zach, the sales water lad. Before we introduce our phenomenal guest on the line right now, we got to pass the mic to our fellow co-host. You don't know the deal. This is season 4. Nothing's changed. Maybe the job titles. We'll check out here. We'll kick it off to Gab.
Thank you, Zach. Yeah, nothing changed, but everything changed at the same time. That's the beauty of it. Gab Bujo, sales deck associate, hoping to get to sales deck director at some point, but I need to earn my reps, so I'll pass it up to my other co-host, Eric.
Yes, Eric Holland, season 4 finally here, and we got the Franken manager. Used to be Franken marketer, but like the rest of us, we got a promotion. And Zach, enough of us. Go ahead and introduce one of our best guests that we're going to have this season.
Heck yeah. And quick career tip. It's easy to promote yourself when you own your own podcast. So 10x that career growth. But aside from that, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about putting back the marketing into content marketing. This is the only time you're going to hear us evangelize marketing on We're Not Marketers, because we got Ross Simmonds on the line. He is the CEO and founder of Foundation Marketing. And if you guys want to know what foundation marketing is, look to the book that he's got on the screen right now. If you are listening on the audio version, it's create once, distribute forever. As we know, as product marketers, distribution is one of the many tasks that we look at today. But how do we do it right? That's what we want to bring Ross on today. This individual has led a team of marketing campaigns that have touched millions across Google, Twitter, or X, depending on your preference, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook here. Not only that, we want to look back at the historical performance. We want to look at tomorrow. We're excited to have Ross on the show to talk about distribution first, how that might relate to the number one social media platform that's growing mindshare, and last but not least, how to use AI not as a tool, but to use it as a way to influence our distribution first strategy. Ross, stoked to have you on.
Pumped to be here. Thank you guys for having me. Let's have some fun. I'm always thrilled and excited to chat with folks who might not be marketers, but are marketers maybe at the core, at the heart.
Heart diagnostic here anytime soon. So we don't know what that might tell us here. But if everyone's familiar with the show, we have this spicy question that we ask of every guest. And it just so happened that Gab is the one that kicks it off. So we're going to pass it off to Gab again.
Thank you. I mean, I feel like I need to kick things up now. This is really like the best intro you ever gave on the show. So that's, yeah. I'm like, how can I reinvent myself? But Ross, thank you for being here. Are product marketers actually marketers? Why or why not?
So I think the definition of a marketer has evolved over time. If you go back to like the 80s, the definition of a marketer was like the Mad Men style marketer who gets in a boardroom and has the fancy ideas about how we are going to turn the Kodak camera into this monumental, heart-throbbing experience that connects a human to their children, which taps into nostalgia and takes them into a journey to understand the meaning of life. That was the original kind of concept of marketing. And then we all realized that marketing, actually, this is a reference to Shrek, is kind of like an onion. There's a lot of different layers. And within those layers, you have a lot of different elements that make up the ultimate marketer. And I think that product marketing is one of the layers within the overarching onion of marketing. And I think that as we've gotten more sophisticated as marketers, as we've gotten more distracted as consumers and people with all of the different channels and technologies and tools and things going on in our world and blah, 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 we have required more subsets of marketing, and product marketing is a subset of the overarching category. So, long answer to a very short question, yes, product marketing is marketing. They are marketers, 100%. But the elements that they take care of, the things that they care about, and the areas in which they focus is going to be very different from a social media marketer. It's going to be very different from a content marketer. It's going to be very different from an SEO who might tell you that they're not a marketer, but they're still a marketer. And that's a whole different debate and discussion. All of these things are still elements of the onion. So yes, product marketers, you're a marketer.
All right. Well, I
we
guess
can't cut the show now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we shouldn't even do
can't end the
season
show.
4.
Is that it? That
We
goes?
shouldn't even do season 4, I guess, guys.
Gents, if you guys have a follow up question, feel free to kick it off. But I have one burning at the top of my head for Ross right here.
I got a question that could just get the plead the fifth answer, but I am curious. So that onion's got a lot of layers.
Lots of layers.
Is there any layer that you just have to have in that onion?
You know,
Right.
That's a great question. So there's this philosophy in marketing called the T-shaped marketer, which is the idea that every marketer should have a broad depth of skills across different areas, and they go super deep in one. I think that model of a T-shaped marketer is good, but I think that there needs to be a bottom layer as well to make it like a capital I. So if we think about it with a capital I, at the bottom are what I would consider what most people think of like as the soft skills. And those are the things like being a good communicator. Those are the things like being good at writing. Those are the things like being able to navigate politics internally and things like that. And I think that when you think of where you should go deep, it's really rooted in the path in which you're trying to focus on and like where you're trying to go. Some people out there want to be product marketers, and that's their only ambition. And if so, become the best product marketer possible, and then find the skills that are going to allow you to be really good at that. So like being able to do customer research, being able to understand the GDM efforts, being able to work closely with sales. Those are things that person should be great at. Some folks have deeper and bigger ambitions where they want to be the CMO. All right, if you want to be the CMO, then you know that bottom that we talked about around soft skills, you better be a GOAT when it comes to managing team, managing finances, understanding budgets, leading a team through both the good times and the bad times, having leadership qualities. Like those are different parts of the onion and different areas that you can go, but it starts with your own personal internal decision making around it. If I was to like really go into this from a career perspective, I would say if you're in the early stages of your career, you want to double down on the niche and the role that you are in and become excellent at it and become the best in the company at your function and at your role without question. To do that well as a marketer though, like the number one thing that you need to know how to do is communicate. If you can't communicate, you're in the wrong job. Like you're really in the wrong job. You need to be able to write well. You need to be able to communicate with your colleagues and peers, and you actually have to know how to sell. Oh, now a bunch of people are triggered. Ross, we have to sell? I'm a marketer. I don't want to sell. Well, you have to sell your ideas internally. You have to sell your vision. You have to sell why this story is worth pursuing. You have to sell your product to your customers through words or through video or whatever your campaigns might be. All of these things matter. You might have to understand the micro nuances of how somebody's interacting with an app and when to show a pop-up, like the psychology of humans. I could go on and on and on, but like you got to sell too. Like that's the thing. We're in the game to make money. We're not in the game just to like get likes and shares. So then from there, as you go up in your career, I think you start to get more and more into those soft skills, and that's where you have to start pivoting. So when we're going through this exercise of saying, how do I get that next promotion? Become excellent in your job. Become great. Oh, you want to get an extra 50, 100K added onto your salary, 200, whatever it may be. All right, so now you have to go into new areas, stretch out that capital I a little bit, get some soft skills that are necessary to be able to move and navigate different rooms, and then you start to win from there. Now, we went on a little bit of a tangent there, and I don't even know if I answered the question that you asked to get started with, but I hope I did. But yeah, that's my answer to what I thought was your question.
Well, no, you actually totally dodged the question. However,
I'm a good marketer.
Gave
I'm a
our
good
audience just another juicy piece of gold to a different question, which is, how do you essentially go from marketer to product marketer to director, VP of something?
Right.
And I've never actually heard it explained, whether using an I or just communicating those different skill levels. And particularly, I appreciate your approach of like, hey, pick the path you want to go first and start getting really good at that, and then start working on those other layers. So yeah, man, appreciate it.
Awesome.
I'll let you go with your questions. Like I have one, but I know we're going to delve into this later on, so I'll keep it to myself for now.
Perfect. I'm building off of your response here, Ross, and Eric, thank you for that question, because this is going to give it more context. Ross, let's say a PMM has grabbed your book,
Yeah.
has read it from start to finish. they are going into their workplace now. They are an IC distribution first mindset.
Right.
They now know that, hey, me selling as a product marketer today doesn't mean me being a content machine creating one pagers, briefs that might not get used.
Yeah.
I now need to shift the perception. I need to shift the orientation of how can we repurpose what's being built.
Yeah.
What is that first victory that a product marketer working in-house today needs to do to get towards that distribution first mindset across their colleagues?
That's a shameless plug, but it's really that, like, education is the gateway to really unlocking success in these types of roles. And what I think the product marketers need to do at the forefront is educate their peers and educate their colleagues, right? Like, that's a key part. And it's not like distribution is this philosophy and idea that I came up with myself. It's like distribution at the heart of business has been a fundamental growth lever for every successful business that we've ever seen, that we've ever interacted with in culture and in life. So when we start with that at the forefront, the shift that needs to happen is that they need to get alignment with leadership, that they need to really tap into the distribution levers that are in front of them and then nurture and capitalize on the ones that are working, and be okay with also experimenting with other distribution channels as well. So the biggest thing is to start facilitating those dialogues, start educating your colleagues and your peers, start sharing the links in your internal Slack channel, whatever it might be, to get the team thinking the same way. And then it's really done on a case-by-case basis where different companies are going to have different distribution channels that lead to better outcomes. And the product marketers need to be tapped in to understanding the growth levers and the distribution channels that make sense for them. For an organization that has a B2C oriented software, or like a software that's could be used by the masses in many ways, like a solution like a Canva, etc., they're going to have a very different distribution strategy than a company that requires a demo and is selling to government. It's a whole different world. So you need to think differently based off of the organization, your offer, your product, etc., and then launch a distribution strategy based off of that.
So what you're telling me here is that if I'm a social media marketer for the Department of Wildlife and Forest Management, I can't just create a TikTok account because I saw that Canva has a TikTok account.
Right, exactly. Although in your space, TikTok probably would pop off because you are talking to people, but I 100% align.
Yeah, I need some TikToks of conservation efforts for real.
I think that might resonate.
That would hit.
But if you're in waste management, no, get off of it. Like, what are you doing, right? Like, if you're in the waste management software game, like, and you're running a TikTok, I'm all for boring brands. Like, I love waste management as a category. I've worked in it in the past. I've sold dirt in the past. I've sold software that goes inside of like roller coasters to make sure screws are tight. Like, we've done some wildly boring work. But if you're in waste management, like, you're probably wasting money if you're doing it on TikTok. Like, maybe 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when like the next generation is in a buying position to be able to do that, you'll be making a good call. But like right now, probably not. Just stay on LinkedIn. Do that. That would be my play. And maybe some SEO, go-to-market, email, distribution. Maybe it's built into your product to get some internal virality happening, those kind of distribution channels. But yeah, I think it depends on the niche in the industry for sure.
Got it. Gab, I know you got a fire question to build this wildfire, no pun intended, to forest management here.
Yeah, I just want to go back to what you said at the beginning, Ross, on the fact that SEO might or might not be marketing. My question is, if SEO is in marketing,
It is.
does it still fall under the responsibilities of the PMM?
Yeah. So that's a great question. I think in a product-led organization, the product marketer should be tapped in closely to SEO. If product-led growth is at the DNA of what you're doing, then I think it has to be. I think SEO should be under the wheelhouse of the PMM, and maybe the PMM brings in an SEO or an SEO partner or something like that. But if product-led like growth is a key part of what you're doing, then I would say 100%, like you should be tapping into SEO as a part of your function and what you're trying to do, because you need people to discover and sign up directly for your product. So I would say it needs to be built in. There's a great book by Eli Schwartz called Product-Led SEO that I would encourage folks to read.
It's great.
Yeah, it's a great book that talks about this concept for those organizations that are in that space. And I think that he lays out the blueprint on how it's done.
Love it. And that's funny because my background is in SEO. So
Nice.
If my background is in SEO and we don't necessarily consider it in marketing,
Yeah,
that's even another layer.
and I do think I think a lot of times brands overlook SEO as a growth lever these days because of so many fancy and shiny things, right? Like I love all the rise of things like TikTok. I love the amazing opportunities that exist on LinkedIn. I love podcasts. I love video. I love YouTube. I love all these things. I love AI and LLMs, ChatGPT, all this stuff, right? But at the end of the day, the internet is still built on the back of content. And the number one site in the world is still Google. The vast majority of referral traffic to every site in the world is still Google. But we always are talking about Google is dead and SEO is dead. It's nonsense, really. I'm okay with the debate to continue, though, because it just means more room for me. Like, sure, more people quit SEO, more money for Foundation. Like, I'm okay with it. But, like, the reality is people don't realize that even the LLMs are built on the back of SEO. The LLMs have scraped the internet. How do you think they got to the internet? Because they prioritized content that was ranking well in Bing, content that was ranking well in Google. How did they find that content? By people who optimize that content to rank in the SERP. But next week, I'm sure you'll see some guru on LinkedIn preach at the top of their lungs about how SEO is dead. And in 4 years, 2 years, Google's dead and everybody's going to be using LLMs. Well, who taught the LLMs? Everything they know. Google, like Bing, the SEO engines, right? So to me, it's a broken mindset. I'm okay with people thinking it, they're wrong, but like SEO has more of a role to play today than ever before because of the rise of LLMs.
I love it. And I think there's like, I saw a post at some point and I should give it credit, but I don't remember it. But basically, like the go-to-market motion of product-led growth is the early sign of AGI up to a point,
Right.
you know, like it's the complete opposite, that the buyer knows a ton and can access everything on the tip of their fingers.
Yep.
And getting to know more because they actually did the work compared to the seller.
Yeah.
So I just think that, again, your point that the back end and the back office of all of AI up to a point is just scraping the internet. And the scraping of that internet comes from search engine optimization. So
100%.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yo, so
So
I got
to follow up. Oh, go for it. Go for it.
Yo, hold on, Zach. Is yours a related topic? Because mine's totally different.
Mine's a related topic.
All right, you cook, bro. You cook.
All right. I'm coming back into the kitchen now. I got the apron on now. All right, Ross. A few days ago, you shared a post related to what you just were sharing now, and I'm gonna pull it up verbatim because I want to make sure I got your words right here. So I'm looking at my nifty little iPad off screen right now. So if I'm looking away, that's why. In 2030, CMOs are going to wish they invested in content and SEO more in 2025 than they did. So my question for you is that, Ross, we're going to have, maybe we hope we have some CMOs listening to this.
Yeah.
But they might send you a message on LinkedIn and say, Ross, we're investing in content and SEO.
Yeah.
So we see no problem. My question for you is like, the first part here is like, what does a proper investment in SEO and content look like? Does it look like me just throwing money at Google Ads and just saying, all right, we're doing it?
Yeah.
I'm curious, what have you seen as to what does that proper investment need to look like to see that 2030 return?
So if you want to see the return in 2030, then you need to be investing now in creating what I would call a content moat. A content moat is essentially a defendable amount of content that you've produced, stories that you've told, content that you've created that speak with authority around the topics that matter to your customers and your ICP today, while interlacing your brand message, features, products, and stories into that content. What that means is that you need to be investing in creating high quality content that demonstrates expertise, authority, trust, and experience, all wrapped into every single asset that you create. Why? Because those assets that you create are going to rank for things called keywords. And every keyword that somebody can type into Google has a value. You can spend money using PPC data, pay-per-click, or a PPC budget to show up at the top of Google, 100%. Or you can create that content organically to capture that value by creating something once and then trying to rank in Google forever for that asset and that individual piece. For example, if anybody right now listens to this and they type in what is CRM, they're probably going to see an article from Salesforce that was published probably 10 to 15 years ago defining what is a CRM. That piece defines a CRM. And because Salesforce wrote it and Salesforce ranks for that keyword, there is an undeniable reality that everyone who thinks of their category also thinks about Salesforce. So what do we have to do as marketers if we're thinking about 2030? Well, we have to think about the phrases that are going to matter to our customers a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years from now. What do we want to show up for? Everybody's talking about AI, agentic this, all of these different keywords that are kind of new to the vernacular. All right, you create that content today, you reap the benefits tomorrow. We've done this with clients. We're early to create content on AI video editing. We were early with clients creating content like landing pages. And then we create these pieces, we rank the clients for them, and they reap the rewards for literal years at a time. So why does this matter now more than ever before? In 2050, 2030, 2040, we are not all going to be tapped into Google the same way that we are today. I agree with that. We are going to rely more heavily on LLMs, conversational search, AI search. Who knows if we're going to have some type of device installed into our headset, our glasses, whatever, and we're asking it questions and it's reading it off to us in whoever's voice we want to. All of these things are possible. I don't know if it's going to happen in 5 years, but it might. Either way, with all of this change, the things that are going to be distributed back to the reader, the consumer, the searcher, the query creator is going to be AI generated content that scraped the SERP, search engine results page. So it's going to be connected to what is ranking in Google today. So when you think about it in that way, it becomes very clear. You want to invest in content, invest in an SEO program that's going to arbitrage your paid media spend and capture all of the value and demand associated with things that your audience is looking for today. You do that over and over again, and in 2030, you reap the rewards. Right now, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of deals are going to be done probably within the next 24 hours because someone went to Google and they typed in best graphic design agency, best ABM agency, best CRM for startups, best real estate agent in Nebraska, best insurance company in New York. I said 100,000, I'm talking hundreds of millions. Like there's hundreds of millions of deals happening today based off of these queries. And if you can rank for this content organically today, then in 2030, when I ask AI, hey, who should I hire or what podcast should I sponsor? It'll say, we're not marketers. Why? Because you created the content today that ranks for the best podcast sponsorships that you should do if you're trying to connect with people that are not marketers. That's the stuff that you want to create today so you can reap the benefits from tomorrow.
Masterful.
Thank you.
Dude, yeah, I feel like I just talked to like a psychology professor. I'm already thinking like, oh, what's my life going to be like in 2030? I better make this content right now.
Right.
Good shit. So, Ross, I got a question. Asking for a friend type scenario.
Let's do it.
So, product marketers, we're making content of all different types. I've actually been a big fan of interactive demos in particular.
They're great.
But for the product marketers listening in who do make some piece of content, whether they're really passionate about it or it was just kind of one of those, hey, I need you to do this things. Ultimately, we want to measure. We want to say, hey, this was impactful and we did a good job on this.
Yeah.
One of the things that I constantly struggle with, and it's partially because of just like my vendetta of having to just completely pound the pavement and say the same thing over and over again, and partially with just like I genuinely feel like I need equipped better to do it. So my question is pretty simply, how can product marketers create that content, but then make sure that it is distributed?
Yeah.
And doing so in obviously the right ways, where we're typically not the channel experts. We're tapped in, like you said, but we're not the experts. So how do we navigate that?
So it's a solid question, and I would view it as there's two areas in which the distribution has to take place with the product marketer's asset that they're creating. There's one area where you're talking to existing customers and you're trying to get them to shift behavior differently, to leverage a feature more. You're launching a feature. You want them to get more excited. You were trying to win back some of your churn. You're trying to re-engage to increase the amount of usage, those types of things. And there's a growth lever that you want to do there that is simply connected to understanding the ways in which you can speak to your customers. And then you have to go into a mindset of thinking, what are our existing distribution channels to the people that already use us, that already leverage our tools and our solutions? Well, you always have the in-app experience. So you always have that to be a feature where you can distribute your content. And if you can get your team, your product leads buy-in to leveraging that, then you can start to use it. You can start to use the bottom of your corner of the experience. So when somebody logs in, they see a pop-up that says a certain thing, or they use a certain feature, an ebook shows up, or a video shows up that's talking about a certain thing, and they can click in and see more. But there's also the power of the email. So yes, they're using your product. How can you tap in through email based off of click behavior? All of those different things need to be a part of it. And what you really just need to do is create your own internalized distribution channels for how you reach the people that you connect with. And then you get the entire team on board with that. You might start to say, I'm going to be really innovative with this. And instead of just using the standard approach, we're going to create a Slack channel for our customers, where if you become a customer of our product, you get to join this Slack channel. Now, is that going to increase your workload? 100%. But does it give you a direct line of access to your customers? 100%. Maybe you say, we're going to also create a Facebook group. Some brands have done it. Some brands have had amazing success with it. Some have started them and then they realize it's too much work and they shut them down. But you want to think about, how do you distribute your content to this group of people that are already using your product at scale? Pat Flynn has a book called Superfans. Strongly recommend that book. It's not even targeted to product marketers, but I think you can apply a lot of the lessons that he talks about in that to this concept. All right, now let's say that as a product marketer, you're also thinking externally. Now you want to use the product announcements, stories, features, assets that you're creating, etc., to attract new eyeballs and get more attention. That's when you need to be really working closely with your growth team, your ABM team, your sales team, etc., and have them in the kind of engaged with your goals to say, how do we both win? How do we both win? If your sales team has a quota that they need to hit, you're arming them with case studies. You might even start writing LinkedIn posts for them, right? You might leverage an AI tool and be like, hey, I need some support. I need to create a bunch of LinkedIn posts for my entire sales team. So you write up 5 or 4 and then you distribute them to the team. You share them in the DMs. You give them the images. You might even have to tap marketing to help you create the images, but you're going to empower the team with assets to help them distribute the stories that you want shared. Or you're going to your own company account, having them distribute it directly from there, and then you're bugging people. Be annoying and say, like this, share this, comment on this, we're on the same team. Get on the line with leadership and say, hey, leadership, we're not getting a lot of employee engagement. Can we run an internal engagement strategy where for an entire month, if somebody is promoting our content and is sharing our posts every single month, you're going to give them a $500 Airbnb gift card. Is that something y'all can throw into the budget? Maybe. Okay, cool. Let's roll that out. And that's going to drive some additional buzz. Maybe everybody's already well comped. Throw it up to 1,000. I don't care. At the end of the day, you have your goals and you need the people to start supporting getting these product features and stories out there. So those are some of the tactics that you can tap into to really start thinking about the distribution. But the problem that exists in most organizations is that they think the job is done when they press publish. They're like, oh, we just wrote our white paper. Well, congratulations. Well done. You did it. You wrote a case study? Well done. Congratulations. Let's share it on LinkedIn once. Let's call it a day. And now let's go create another one. What are we doing? What are we doing? That's That's like having a party and not inviting anyone to it. And it's a waste of time and energy. You need to distribute your content, and you need to rally your teams to distribute the stories that you're creating. Otherwise, it's a waste of time and energy. And you're going to be coming up to your quarterly reviews and everyone's like, we're investing a lot of money in content, but we're not seeing the ROI. Where's the ROI? The ROI doesn't happen because you're not distributing it. It's not reaching anybody. How does it reach people if nobody's promoting it? I can't even get my sales team to put up a LinkedIn post, but we're expecting to increase our MQLs from LinkedIn? No, it doesn't work that way unless you're going to throw money at it and then run some paid ads. Either way, the issues that run deep in companies today is that we are so deeply in this production mindset where we produce instead of thinking about distribution, right? I stole this from Wu-Tang. Cream is dead. Sure, cash rules everything around me, and content does not rule everything around me. So content rules everything around me. That concept is dead. Distribution rules everything around me. The dream needs to be embraced by every team, every org. Distribute the stories that you've already produced.
Wow.
That's what I needed to hear.
Good.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
I got a question to follow up on that, but before I ask, I want to make sure that if there's any other questions here to put in there. See, Ross, as he knows from the show, after season 4, we know how to handle a 3-host.
That's it.
We're getting better at it, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Listen to episode 1, season 1. You'll see how far we've come.
Yeah.
The growth
Good
is
luck to
real.
medium
The
plus
growth is
syndrome.
real. I love it. That's awesome.
So,
You guys remember how
Ross,
bad our mics were?
oh my God! Oh,
Wow.
we had a former guest said, "Hey, your show's great. Fix your mic." I was like,
That's awesome. I love that. You gotta love the brutal honesty. That's what you need.
"Hey, we do."
That's what you need.
That's how we've gotten to where we're at here today. The
Yeah,
honesty
you need
helps
that.
us
You
grow.
need that cold feedback, that brutal feedback.
Oh, heck yeah! You can't grow without pain.
That's it.
Growing pains.
That's it.
When we talk a lot about AI today, we think a lot about doing more with less.
Yeah.
What you mentioned here earlier is how AI can help influence content distribution. A stark difference around content creation.
Right.
I want to know that if, as a product marketer who's listening to this episode right now, what is one thing they can do tomorrow, 30 days from now,
Yeah.
and 90 days from now, to stay ahead of the AI curve when it comes to AI to content distribution?
So, my advice to anyone who wants to stay ahead is to first make sure that you understand the fundamentals. And I hope that you're already at that point. Like, if you've got the fundamentals, perfect. Because if you don't have the fundamentals, then you got to start at a whole different ball game, and you got to do a lot of fundamental training and learning and reading the basics of the 4 Ps. If you don't know what the 4 Ps are, start there. Then you have to go into a obsession around understanding this tech, a true deep obsession. And some people are like, I don't have time to be obsessed with anything. Well, folks, I hate to tell you, but this time your livelihood does depend on it. Your livelihood literally depends on this trend being a part of your toolkit or not. Unless you're gonna change your career. If you're going into like home services, you got a job forever. You're in plumbing, cool. People are always gonna need to use the toilet. Like, get out of this industry and go do that. Like, you'll always be good. But marketers, product marketers, GTM marketers, PPC, SEO, y'all screwed. We're all screwed if we do not embrace this tech. So become obsessed. You need to sign up for every newsletter that you can on AI. You need to go into the technical channels of Reddit. You need to go into the B2B communities and listen to people who are tinkering and experimenting. YouTube is an amazing resource. Embrace it. And my advice to them would be this: block off one day a week. If you work a regular 9 to 5, then it might have to be on your weekend. But you have to block off a day and just use that day for like 3 months, 4 months, and it's going to compound the longer you're willing to commit to it, to learning. I used to do this thing called Wired In Wednesdays. And this is when I had my first job. And on Wednesdays, I would tell people I do not take calls. All I'm doing is producing, learning, and wiring in to get better. And at Foundation, we still do this. On Wednesdays are the only days I take podcast interviews because I'm creating and adding value to conversations. It's the only day in which I don't take client calls. I'm just plugged in, learning, creating, and building. So I would intentionally tell people to be so intentional right now with finding resources to help them better understand how to use the tools, whether it's Clay, whether it's HeyGen, whether it's Midjourney, ChatGPT, Claude, etc. Obsess over it. Become better at it. And if you do that for a year, folks, the reality is you're going to be better than everybody else because nobody's going to do it. The vast majority of the world is going to rely on what they already know and think that they will be okay. And that's your opportunity. That's your opportunity to get a little bit of differentiation. And sure, with 1 year, it's not that much time, but it's enough to give you a differentiation. If my advice to you was like, how do I really take off? It would be to increase the amount of time. It's just like, it's a compounding effort. The more time that you put in, the more opportunities you're going to have, the more capacity you're going to build. And back to our conversation earlier around thinking about 2030, you're laying the foundation today for the skills that you're going to need tomorrow. So my advice would be to just double down, sign up for all the demos, be embarrassed by so many demos that you're taking with no intention of buying. A lot of SaaS companies hate that I just said that, but like, I'd sign up for all of them. Take all the demos. Learn every single tools in the market and waste the salespeople's time to just give you those demos. And it sucks, but like you have to learn this stuff. So like build out your own nest and then keep documents and write down what you're learning as you go. So that would be like what I would advise right away. Now, the second thing that I would advise is that you start building things. Build things for yourself. Start by thinking to yourself, I'm going to now give myself a project. Another thing that we all have fallen into the trap of is we graduate from high school and we stop getting homework, so we all start getting a little bit lazy. You know what? Give yourself homework. Give yourself some homework that you have to do to get better. So what could that homework be? I'm going to teach myself how to create a GPT. That could be the basics. That's what I want your listeners to do. If your listeners have not created their own GPT yet using ChatGPT, that's your task. Go create a GPT. I don't know where to start. Google it. That's where you start. You Google it. And then you begin your learning journey, and I am happy for you. That's the path ahead. Okay, so after you create your GPT, then what do? You now have built up a muscle that a lot of people don't have. Not everyone can say that they've built a GPT. To some folks that are more AI sophisticated, they might say, oh, that's so basic, haha. But everybody starts basic at some point, right? Like when we all come out of the womb, we're all basic, and then we get better over time. So the same thing exists with this stuff. You might start with a very basic task like creating a GPT, and then that evolves. Maybe you might want to create your own app. Cool, go for it. With a tool like Cursor, you can do that now. With Claude, you can do that now. Start to level up your homework as you get better. So my advice is simply twofold. Or here's another idea. If you wanted to start experimenting with content, start making AI video characters and giving them voices to talk about the products that you're working on. Another quick project and homework for everybody to do. Go into a tool like HeyGen, create a digital avatar, take a bunch of product videos that you wish your sales team would create or that you wish people would create, write the script using ChatGPT, upload it to this tool, have the AI read it and say it for you on your behalf, and then distribute it internally and see what people think. Or do it for your own product and make it up and then just share it with your boss and say, look at this thing I created. And they'll say, whoa, I'm excited, I'm interested, you're getting a promotion next year. Like, figure out what your homework's gonna be, but experiment, folks. So, long story summarized. Educate yourself and be obsessed with this trend. 2, experiment relentlessly and give yourself homework. Those are the two things. If you want to win, those are the two things that I would push people to do. Educate, experiment, and sign up for a bunch of demos.
This is awesome. And it's like, I very much relate to the fact that you said you need to be obsessive because let's face it, we're in tech, right? If you're not driven or curious by technology, you might be in the wrong field. Maybe you decided to go here for the pay or whatever.
Right.
But I think it's a very good tip, and I want to push it further as well because it's like there's so many ways of working as a product marketer, right? It's an input-output games at the end.
Yeah.
But with AI, you have a body that you can build and shape the way you want. You can research a lot in very little time.
Yeah.
And it's not becoming a game of maximum effort equal maximum output. It's a game of like optimal effort equal maximum output. So, yeah, I had to kind of stop a few times while you were talking about that because again, I just relate to that so much. And I think
love
our
it.
audience very felt the same way.
I love that. Appreciate it.
Well, yeah, and you know what you made me feel, and I'm actually gonna leave this conversation fucking afraid, and it's gonna push me to go learn more. But like you're saying that we don't want to be behind the eight ball. Eventually, people will learn this stuff. Like I don't want to be like my mom when she got her first smartphone.
Right.
You know, I don't want to live that life.
Yeah.
You know, she's still. It's like 3 years later, doesn't know how to use this thing.
Right.
You know, I want to be the one that's got AI agents doing all of my work for me while I just get to think appropriately and it does all the other stuff.
Well,
While
that's the
drinking
thing.
a
You can
drink
create a
somewhere.
script that, hey, this one just dropped for this price. You can get
Yeah,
it.
I was gonna
I'm
say
telling
they gotta get me for they gotta get everything that comes on retail or within a
That's it.
$20 variance of retail.
Oh,
Just
I'm telling you, it's
just
out
cop
there.
it. Here's my
It is
card.
It is out
Yeah.
there. There's apps.
No,
You can
I
do that.
appreciate that, man. I think there's gonna be a lot of our listeners who need that same type of that little shake. That I'll implore them to actually go do that learning. So I
It's a
appreciate it.
reminder all of us need, like even myself, like as much as I preach this all the time, like I'll be the first to admit, like I can feel myself getting away from some of the things that I used to be so tapped into, right? Like I used to be like when X came out, Twitter, I was there. I was on it. I crushed it. Did my thing. LinkedIn, same thing. Like I broke the LinkedIn algorithm back in like 2018. I wrote this piece on like the LinkedIn algorithm, and all of Microsoft was like on me about it. Like I've been in the game to know that stuff. But then this thing comes along like TikTok, and I'm like reaching out to colleagues of mine asking like, how do I change the link in my bio on TikTok? Like, what is this? This thing makes no sense to me. I'm like, I'm trying to figure out this CapCut thing. Like, do I need to download the desktop version? I feel it. Like, I feel that separation. And it's a reality of, I think, life and the game at the same time. So my advice to folks is like, some people might have just heard that and they might have like exited the podcast. And I feel sorry that they did. But those who still are with us, I would say like, you have to be easy on yourself in some regards too. Like, don't beat yourself up saying, man, like, I can't do all of this. I can't do all this. But like, give yourself some grace and do the best you can with what you've got. And when you do that, that's how you can win. Because I don't want anybody to like get so rattled by this concept and be like, oh, the woe is me, it's over. I want you to take a step back and be like, okay, what is inside of my circle of control? You know, if you're spending a little bit too much time watching Netflix, you know, if you're spending a little bit too much time playing NBA Live, I don't even think that's a game anymore, but like whatever it is.
Yo, tangent time. That was a game. The slam dunk contest. Oh, man, I miss those days. All right.
Those were the days. I think it's just 2K now. But like you got to figure it out for yourself. Like where's your attention and how can you shift it to this trend that's going to fundamentally change all of our lives?
Find a level that works for you ultimately. And I want to go back to the comparison that Eric said about his mom looking at the smartphone and struggling with it. But just a few years back, I don't know if you guys ever work with people that don't know how to Google.
Oh yeah, there's a lot.
And then you just know how Google works, especially with like SEO. You understand how those, all of the different elements of a search query.
Yeah.
And then you get into the hell of like Googling something for them, finding information.
Yeah.
And then they always go back to you.
Yeah.
And you're like, bro, like I can't help you all the time.
Yeah.
You have to learn how to Google.
Have
This
you
is
ever
a very
heard of
clear.
Have you ever heard of the site LMGTFY?
No. Let me Google it for you.
Yes, that's the acronym. And you send that to somebody and then you write in what you want them to Google and then you send them this link and it will go through the experience of typing it in for them and then show them where they should click to go and see it. They won't ask you again. If you use that, they will never ask you again.
It's like in a few years we'll be like, how did you get that? How did you do that work so quick? Well, I mean, it's all about finding a level that works for you.
100%. I think folks that's another big takeaway for folks. Like, it's not a big takeaway because it's a simple concept and a simple idea, But always do your research first. Like before you bring something to someone, like go to Google, type in your problem, ask AI, see if you can get some help. Because you're going to bring it to somebody who's just a better Googler than you. That's it.
Yeah, that is true. That is very true. Ross, to follow up on this tangent right here, you hit on a few key points on emerging questions that the three of us have been hearing more of in the second half of last year and now. Of, hey guys, I'm sick of corporate work.
Right.
I want to work solo. They're going to listen to this conversation. They're going to pick up a few elements of what you're saying, Ross, and they'd be like, I'm like, I definitely want to do that. I want to have an obsession. I may not have time.
Yeah.
And I'm here like just along the similar framework right here. Like in 2025 right now, if I'm a product marketer who wants to start building inroads of working solo, like what's one thing I should start doing? What's one thing I should stop doing? I think you mentioned it. You mentioned a few things to stop, and then what are the things I should continue on doing to get myself to a place where I want to quit my fucking job and I want to be like Ross Simmonds, running my own shop.
Yeah. So the thing to start doing is being public with your ideas. I think you have to embrace a mantra and a concept that every idea that you have that is great deserves to be seen and consumed by the world. And when you start with that first principle, you're going to be you're going to be less afraid to put your ideas out on LinkedIn. You're going to be less afraid to create videos for YouTube. You're going to be less afraid to go on a podcast and talk about your ideas. That's what you need to start doing. You have to give yourself the permission to stop being afraid and start producing and sharing and distributing your stories relentlessly. That's what you need to start doing. You need to stop convincing yourself that you're not ready to do these things today. Like a lot of people who are listening to this are probably like, I need to get more expertise. I need to improve my skill set. I need to really flush out my I-shaped marketer concept before I can go and make this leap. Folks, I wrote my first blog post when I was probably 23 years old. And I said, the blog post was titled, How to Do Marketing to Generation Y. I was living in my parents' basement. I probably had like $25 to my name. I had no money. I was just finishing up school. I was drinking instant coffee that was stale. And I was press and publish on this content. I also wrote a blog post called 20 Books That You Should Read about advertising to get a job in advertising. Guess who didn't have a job in advertising? I didn't even have a job in advertising, but I wrote that book. Bacardi reads one of my blog posts. They're like, hey, 21-year-old, you sound smart. Fly down to Miami. We want you to train our C-suite on how to do marketing to Gen Y. I run upstairs. I'm like, Mom, so this company wants me to do this thing. What y'all think? She's like, son, they're going to kill you. That's not real. It's fake. It's the internet. They're strangers. They're going to kill you. You're not doing it. It's not happening. I'm like, Dad, can I borrow your suit? Because I didn't have a suit. So I'm wearing my dad's baggy suit. I go to the airport and I show up and I do my thing. I'm 21 years old. Like, this makes no sense. You only get these opportunities because you convinced yourself that it's okay for you to do them. So folks, stop talking yourself out of opportunities. Just create the things. It might not be great, but it's going to open up more and more doors, and content, I believe, compounds over your career, and it ultimately like pays dividends for decades to come. So that's one of the things that you should stop doing. Is it's all the internal things, right? Like the stops are all the internal work. Stop convincing yourself that you're not ready. Stop talking yourself out of opportunities that you prepared for. Stop always thinking and assuming that other people know more about things that you do just because they live in a different region. Like I live in the middle of Nova Scotia, right? Some people just now picked that up. They might have got a few of my A's and my boats and stuff like that as we were going. But like, I'm not in a major metropolis. Like it doesn't happen. But I've been able to reach some of the biggest brands in the world, work with some of the biggest brands in the world, shake hands with some of the biggest names in entertainment and business. Like this is possible because I stopped talking myself out of opportunities and I just started creating things. So people, that's what you need to do. Do the inner work, and then start creating, start distributing your stories. But then you should continue down this path that we talked about a few minutes ago around experimentation. Because by experimenting with different ideas, you start to open up new opportunities that you didn't know existed. I didn't ever really think to myself, I'm going to be a marketing agency, book writer about marketing. That wasn't like what I wanted to do. I was blogging about fantasy football. My blog was taking off. My entire school was being paid for on the back of a fantasy football blog. And then my mom was like, Ross, your marks are tanking. Why don't you write about what you're learning in school? And I was like, cool, I'll write about marketing as well. Started to write about marketing, and then I started to get opportunities. I was like, cool, people like what I'm saying about marketing. This is an opportunity for me to pursue. But it started with a blog about fantasy sports. And before that, it was a blog about video games called The Sims, which is a whole different discussion. But like all of these things were just me experimenting and trying things that gave me insights around things like SEO and eBay and stuff like that that compound into my career. So my long response to folks would be continue experimenting. Tinker with that idea that you have had in the back of your mind for so long. Oh, you wanted to start a blog about sneakers? Go start the blog about sneakers. Oh, you want an Instagram account about sneakers? Start an Instagram account about sneakers. Oh, you want to create something about hair? Create it about hair. I don't care what it is. Create things, folks. Experiment with different ideas. Create a YouTube channel about gardening. It doesn't matter. Go pursue different things. And from these different things, you're going to unlock new opportunities, new channels, new growth, and you're just going to have a fascinating life. And that, at the end of the day, is all that matters. Live a good life. Have fun. Enjoy the ride.
So what I definitely picked up out of that is Dave Portnoy and Barstool Sports missed out on a hell of a writer.
That is true. That is fair. I would have crushed it.
You would have crushed. You're damn right. You would have crushed it. You would have been on Surviving Barstool last night.
That's it. 100%.
Cool, Ross.
There is a
I'll
timeline
forever
out there in the
remember that.
universe where I'm on it. There's some, some
Exactly.
timeline
There's
out there.
in the multiverse, yeah.
Yeah, in the multiverse.
That's awesome, man. This is a great episode, boys. Do we got any other questions we want to run through? I know we're kind of right at time.
We're at time right now. I predict there's gonna have to be a part 2 somewhere down the road because Ross, like, there was so much that I learned personally that I'm like, damn, we might have to run this back again.
Let's do it.
Season 6. If you offer us the privilege of having you back on, we're more happy to back you.
Let's do it. You folks make sure that you get to season 6, and I'll be there.
Oh, that's easy work. That's easy work.
Yeah.
We got-
Light work.
I like it. I should have pushed you harder. I should have said season 10 or something. Either way.
Still easy work.
I know. I was like, I'm already scheduling people for season 5, so this is gonna be light work.
Yeah, I was like, yo, we playing 2 seasons out.
I love it. That's awesome.
This was awesome.
I appreciate what you're bringing to the industry, for the community, etc. Thank you so much for bringing me on, and I hope folks got some value out of our conversation today.
Yes.
Definitely will. Some different perspective. And Ross, we selfishly want to know, where else can our fans find you?
Yeah.
Where else can our listeners tap in? And do you have anything cool coming out over the next few months you want to know about?
Yeah, definitely. So the easiest, it would be a disgrace if you Googled Ross Simmonds and you couldn't find me. So that's what I'm going to tell folks to do. And if it doesn't work, then I've failed, and don't listen to anything that I've said today. But if you Google me, you'll find all of the different channels. I have recently been working on a product called distribution.ai that I'd love for folks to check out. It's going to help creators, marketers, take that content that they've been producing and actually put it on autopilot with distribution efforts. So definitely check that out. And of course, check the book, Create Once, Distribute Forever, wherever books are sold. And again, thank you guys so much for having me on.
Thanks for being here, man. It was an awesome episode. Very excited
Yeah.
of having the chance to chat with you.
And
All
that's
right,
it
well
for
then that's another episode. Oh, Zach beat me to it.
Look at that.
We should have done it. We should have done it in synchro.
Pineapple.
Pineapple. Yeah. That's a good pineapple. But y'all, that's Ross Simmonds in another episode with the Misfits at We're Not
Not
Marketers.
marketers.
See you guys.
All right.
Later.
See ya.